The plane lurches, a sudden gust catching its fragile wings, but the pilot's gaze remains fixed, not on the instruments, but on the world unfurling beneath. Dust devils dance in the distance, a shimmering heat haze distorting the horizon, yet here, etched into the ochre canvas of the desert, is something impossible. A hummingbird, its delicate wingspan stretching hundreds of feet, its long beak piercing an invisible flower. Then a monkey, its spiral tail a masterpiece of precision, each curve deliberate, perfect. A spider, too, its 8 legs fanned out, seemingly poised to scuttle across the vast expanse of the pampa. These are not mirages. They are real, immense figures carved into the earth, lines so straight, so geometrically flawless, they defy the very notion of human creation without a vantage point from above. The sun glares, reflecting off the pale, exposed soil, highlighting the deep troughs that form these impossible pictures. From ground level they vanish, dissolving into random paths and scattered stones, but up here in the cold, thin air, their true forms materialize, challenging everything you thought you knew about ancient civilizations. Who made them, these colossal earthworks, designed for an audience that surely could not have existed in their time? And what dark secret lies buried beneath their enigmatic gaze? But to understand how we got here, to this impossible vantage point, we need to go back. Long before the lines, before the first airplane ever scarred the sky, the Nazca people lived a life intimately tied to the arid, unforgiving landscape of southern Peru. This was a world dictated by the rhythm of the rare rains and the flow of precious rivers, where survival itself was an art. Imagine, for a moment, a vibrant society thriving around 200 BCE, building mud brick settlements, cultivating maize, beans, and gourds in an environment that constantly threatened to reclaim them. Their pottery was exquisite, adorned with vibrant images of fertility, shamanic transformations, and trophy heads, a stark reminder of their spiritual beliefs and practices. Life was harsh, certainly, but it was also rich with ritual and a deep connection to the natural world. They were masters of irrigation, crafting sophisticated underground aqueducts known as puquios to draw water from subterranean sources, a testament to their ingenuity. These were not primitive nomads, but a complex, organized society capable of monumental collective effort. They revered the mountains as sources of water and the sky as the domain of powerful gods. Their entire existence was a delicate balance, a constant negotiation with the elements, making every drop of water a sacred commodity. They did not yet draw on the desert floor for an unseen audience, but their reverence for the land and sky was already profound, a canvas waiting for a monumental brushstroke. The Nazca Civilization flourished in the Ica and Nazca valleys, roughly from 100 BCE to 800 CE, evolving from the earlier Paracas culture. This period saw the development of their unique artistic and spiritual traditions, deeply interwoven with their struggle against the desert. Their religion was animistic, centered on the worship of nature deities associated with water, fertility, and the mountains. They engaged in ritual warfare, often taking trophy heads, believing these captured the power of their enemies and enhanced their own agricultural prosperity. The capital of their expansive influence was Cahuachi, a massive ceremonial center built from adobe, covering 24 square kilometers. Cahuachi boasted over 40 mounds, topped with adobe structures and temples, and was likely a pilgrimage site for Nazca people from across the region. Archaeological excavations, particularly by Giuseppe Orfasai, have uncovered vast quantities of ritual offerings, including elaborate textiles, ceramics, and even human remains, indicating a society deeply invested in appeasing their gods. This was a culture that understood the concept of large-scale public works, having already constructed the intricate puquios, some of which are still in use today. These underground channels, often several kilometers long, brought fresh water to their fields and settlements, a feat of engineering that required immense planning and coordinated labor. It's against this backdrop of sophisticated social organization and profound spiritual belief that the first whispers of something truly extraordinary began to emerge, something far grander than any puquio. The first true recognition of the Nazca lines, beyond local folklore, came not from the ground but from the air. In the early 20th century, as fledgling commercial airlines began charting routes across Peru, pilots reported strange, geometric patterns scarring the desert floor. These weren't mere trails or natural formations. They were clearly artificial, immense lines stretching for miles, forming squares, triangles, and spirals. In 1927, Peruvian archaeologist Toribio Mejia Zesp was perhaps the first to systematically study these phenomena from the ground, identifying them as ritual roads and presenting his findings at a national congress in Lima. However, without the aerial perspective, their true form remained elusive, dismissed by many as insignificant, just ancient pathways or agricultural boundaries. Imagine Zesp trudging through the vast, featureless pampa, trying to make sense of what, from his human-level perspective, appeared to be nothing more than random furrows and scattered stones. He could sense their purpose, their ancient intent, but the sheer scale, the intricate artistry, the animal shapes, these were secrets the ground refused to yield. The general public, and even many academics, largely ignored these early observations. How could ancient people, without the benefit of flight, have created such perfect, monumental designs visible only from hundreds of meters up? The question seemed absurd. Yet the lines were there, silent witnesses to a forgotten ambition, waiting patiently for the technology that would finally reveal their impossible truth. What began as scattered observations by intrepid pilots and curious archaeologists soon escalated into a full-blown enigma. In the 1930s, American historian Paul Cossack arrived in Peru, intent on studying ancient irrigation systems. His work led him directly to the Nazca lines. He was the first to recognize the astronomical alignments of some of the straight lines, famously declaring the entire plane the largest astronomy book in the world. Then in 1939, while flying over the Nazca Pampa, Cossack made a breathtaking discovery, a colossal bird figure previously unseen from the ground. This wasn't just abstract geometry. These were intricate, figurative drawings of animals, plants, and humanoids. The realization sent a chill down his spine. How could such detailed artwork be created on such an enormous scale, precisely oriented, without any means of observing the work in progress from a distance? The sheer scale was mind-boggling, with some figures spanning hundreds of meters. Imagine the immense planning, the intricate measurements, the sheer labor involved in removing dark, oxidized stones to expose the lighter soil beneath, maintaining perfectly straight lines over miles of uneven terrain, or perfectly curving a spiral the size of a football field. The thing that should have stopped it, the impossibility of oversight, was exactly what made it so astounding. Cossack's findings, meticulously documented, transformed the lines from mere curiosities into one of the world's greatest archaeological puzzles, posing a fundamental challenge to our understanding of ancient human capabilities. And yet, the full extent of this unparalleled endeavor remained largely hidden, awaiting the dedication of an unlikely figure. The true scale of the Nazca Line's mystery escalated dramatically with the arrival of a new character, Maria Reich. A German mathematician and archaeologist, Reich became Cossack's assistant in 1941, initially helping him with his astronomical observations. What began as an academic collaboration soon became her life's singular obsession. Reich, famously known as the Lady of the Lines, dedicated over 5 decades of her life to mapping, preserving, and deciphering these enigmatic drawings. She spent countless hours living in a small, isolated house in the desert, often alone, carefully walking every single line, measuring, documenting, and protecting the fragile geoglyphs from damage. Her meticulous work revealed not just a few prominent figures, but hundreds of individual designs, overlapping in some areas, clearly created over centuries. She categorized them geometric shapes, including trapezoids, triangles, and spirals, and zoomorphic figures, monkeys, hummingbirds, spiders, lizards, pelicans, and even an orca. This vast catalog, comprising over 1,000 distinct designs across 450 square kilometers, redefined the scope of the Nazca achievement. It wasn't just a few large figures, it was an entire landscape transformed, a colossal open-air canvas. This new understanding reframed everything. This wasn't an accidental discovery, but a deliberate, sustained cultural project of staggering ambition. Reiche's tireless dedication unearthed the full complexity, but also deepened the core question: why? Why this extraordinary, persistent effort over generations for something that seemingly no one on the ground could fully appreciate? Something didn't add up. The desert was revealing its secrets, but each revelation brought more profound questions than answers. Everything pointed one way: ancient art, perhaps ritualistic, perhaps astronomical. But then a crucial pivot occurred, a revelation that began to chip away at the purely artistic or calendrical explanations. The sheer number of lines, the incredible precision in their diverse forms, from animals to intricate geometric patterns, suggested a purpose far more complex, more utilitarian than initially conceived. It wasn't just about marking solstices or venerating sky gods, it was about survival. Researchers began to focus on the unique geography and climate of the Nazca Desert. This is one of the driest places on Earth, receiving mere millimeters of rainfall annually. Water, or the lack thereof, would have been the single most pressing concern for the Nazca people. The earlier discovery of the Puquio's, their ingenious underground aqueducts, already hinted at their sophisticated hydraulic engineering. What if the geoglyphs were not purely spiritual messages to the heavens, but pragmatic, earthbound appeals, or even practical guides to locating and managing their most precious resource? This shift in perspective, championed by researchers like Johann Reinhard in the 1980s, began to suggest that the Nazca lines were intrinsically linked to water. The trapezoidal shapes, for instance, often point to water sources or ancient riverbeds. The animal figures, many of which are associated with water or fertility in Andean cultures, could be petitions to mountain deities for rain. This wasn't just a civilization gazing upwards, it was one desperately manipulating its environment, even symbolically, to secure its future. The sacred and the practical were intertwining in ways no one had fully appreciated, casting a new, chilling light on the monumental effort. What the pivot revealed was a much deeper connection to the very lifeblood of the desert: water. It's a detail often overlooked by those captivated by the extraterrestrial theories. Beyond the impressive animal figures and geometric patterns, many Nazca lines directly lead to or delineate ancient underground water sources, often connected to the Puquio's or subterranean aquifers. The sheer number of trapezoidal figures, in particular, points towards these vital resources. These aren't just random shapes, they are often found in areas with hydrological significance. Some researchers propose that the lines served as pathways for ritual processions, connecting the human world to the sacred sources of water in a desperate plea for rain and fertility in an increasingly arid environment. Imagine priests and villagers walking these vast, sacred paths, their prayers echoing across the desolate plains, believing that their precise movements and offerings on these etched pathways would appease the mountain gods. Furthermore, some of the animal figures, such as the spider and the monkey, are associated with water and fertility in local Andean cosmology. The spider is sometimes linked to rain, while the monkey, with its grasping hands, could symbolize the collection of water. This goes beyond simple irrigation. This is a complex system of belief and practice, where the physical act of creating and traversing these lines was an integral part of their survival strategy, a monumental act of hydrological prayer etched onto the earth itself. It reveals a society that, faced with existential threats, turned to both advanced engineering and profound spiritual expression, intertwining them on a scale almost unimaginable. The creation of the Nazca lines was not a solitary act of genius, nor was it a spontaneous burst of artistic expression. It was an immense, multi-generational undertaking that demanded staggering human cost. While we cannot identify a single individual artist, we can imagine the lives of the thousands who labored year after year, century after century. Consider a hypothetical Nazca laborer, perhaps a young man named Huarak, in the year 350 CE. Huarak, like countless others, would have spent his days under the brutal desert sun, carefully clearing dark, oxidized stones from the lighter gypsum soil beneath. He would have used simple tools, stone picks, wooden shovels, and perhaps ropes for surveying. Each straight line, each curve of a hummingbird's wing, each precise geometric angle, would have been the result of backbreaking, repetitive work. His hands would be calloused, his skin perpetually parched. He would have followed the instructions of master designers, perhaps conveyed through small-scale models or verbal commands, maintaining incredible precision over vast distances, an impossible task without a guiding hand from above, or a highly sophisticated ground-based surveying system. What did Huarak sacrifice? His youth, his strength, his entire life, dedicated to creating something he himself could never truly see or comprehend in its entirety. This wasn't simply a job, it was a sacred duty, intertwined with the survival of his community. The collective effort required to maintain such an immense project, spanning generations, speaks to an unparalleled social cohesion and a deep-seated spiritual imperative. They were not just drawing on the desert, they were sacrificing on it, giving their very essence to appease unseen forces in a desperate struggle for life. The true human cost lies not in monetary value, but in the untold sweat, toil, and unwavering faith of the people facing an existential crisis. While scientists and archaeologists painstakingly pieced together the hydrological and astronomical theories, a more sensational, yet ultimately distracting, narrative began to take hold, the ancient astronaut hypothesis. Popularized by Erich von Däniken in his 1968 book Chariots of the Gods, this theory posited that the Nazca lines were landing strips for extraterrestrial spacecraft or messages for alien visitors. This idea, while captivating to the public, inadvertently created a cover-up of sorts, not an intentional concealment of truth, but an overshadowing of rigorous scientific inquiry by speculative fantasy. It's easier, perhaps, to imagine advanced alien beings capable of such feats than to confront the full, daunting scale of human ingenuity and desperation in a harsh environment. This narrative shifted focus away from the Nazca people themselves, effectively denying them the credit for their own monumental achievement and erasing their complex cultural motivations. Who benefited from this silence? Publishers selling millions of books, documentary makers seeking dramatic ratings, and a public eager for simple, sensational answers to complex historical questions. The alien theory, despite a complete lack of archaeological evidence, became intertwined with the mystery, frequently sensationalizing the lines and obscuring the genuine human story. It became harder for serious researchers to gain public attention for their nuanced, evidence-based theories when faced with the irresistible allure of alien visitors. The true mystery of why the Nazca people committed generations to this effort, and what they truly believed, was buried under layers of pop culture speculation, a historical echo chamber drowning out the whispers of the past. When investigators and scientists looked closer, stripping away the alien narratives and focusing on meticulous archaeological and ethnographic work, a much richer, albeit still profoundly mysterious, picture emerged. Researchers like Clive Ruggles, a specialist in archaeoastronomy, confirmed some astronomical alignments but also emphasized that these were only a fraction of the lines, suggesting astronomy was just one facet, not the sole purpose. Crucially, anthropologists like Donald Praux delved into Nazca iconography and religious practices, discovering strong links between the figures drawn on the pampa and their beliefs about water, fertility, and mountain deities. They noted that many of the animals depicted, such as the spider, monkey, and hummingbird, are frequently found in Nazca pottery and textiles alongside symbols of water. The investigation also meticulously documented the construction methods. The Nazca people would mark out their designs using stakes and ropes, often creating small-scale models first. Then they would remove the dark, oxidized layer of stones, the desert varnish, to expose the lighter soil beneath, piling the darker stones in ridges along the edges to create contrast and define the lines. This simple yet highly effective technique, while labor-intensive, required no advanced tools beyond what they possessed. Geologists confirmed that the Nazca Pampa is uniquely suited for such geoglyphs. Its flat, arid, windless conditions, coupled with a naturally cemented hardpan beneath the surface, allowed the lines to endure for centuries, preserving this monumental record of their beliefs and struggles. The meticulous scientific investigation transformed the lines from an inexplicable anomaly into a profound testament to human ingenuity, religious fervor, and a sophisticated understanding of their environment, even if the ultimate why remained elusive. The official or most commonly accepted explanations, while grounded in scientific research, still struggle to encapsulate the full magnitude of the Nazca Line's mystery. The irrigation maps or ritual pathways for water cults theories, while compelling and supported by evidence, do not fully account for the sheer diversity and abstract nature of all the geoglyphs. Why some lines point to astronomical events and others seem to delineate water sources, while still others are purely geometric, remains a puzzle. The celestial calendar theory, popularized by Maria Reich, suggests the lines functioned as a gigantic astronomical observatory, marking solstices, equinoxes, and the rising of specific constellations. This explanation offers a powerful rationale for the precision and orientation of many lines, but it doesn't fully explain the figurative drawings. Why etch a colossal spider or a monkey on the desert floor if the primary purpose is simply to track celestial movements? Furthermore, the sheer scale of the geoglyphs, often spanning hundreds of meters, seems disproportionate for ground-level ritual paths or simple markers. While ancient cultures often imbued their landscapes with sacred meaning, the Nazca lines represent an extreme example of this practice. The false answers aren't necessarily wrong, but they are incomplete. Each theory offers a piece of the puzzle, a partial truth, yet none fully synthesizes the monumental effort, the long timeline of creation, and the breathtaking array of designs into one coherent, universally accepted purpose. They don't entirely hold up because the Nazca lines are not a single-purpose entity, but a layered, evolving expression of an entire civilization's worldview, facing challenges we can only begin to comprehend. The most credible theory, synthesized from decades of multidisciplinary research, posits that the Nazca lines represent a vast, sacred ritual landscape, intrinsically linked to water, fertility, and astronomical observations, all crucial for the survival of their civilization. The evidence points to a multifunctional purpose, evolving over centuries. The lines served as processional pathways for elaborate water rituals, connecting the community to vital resources and revered mountain deities. The trapezoids and rectangles often functioned as catchment areas or offering spaces, possibly for libations or the collection of sacred water, symbolically mirroring the underground puquios. The animal figures imbued with spiritual significance were likely effigies or prayers to specific gods for rain, fertile harvests, and successful hunting. The spider, for instance, was associated with rain and abundance, the hummingbird with fertility, and the monkey with water in general. The astronomical alignments provided a cosmic dimension, connecting their earthly rituals to the predictable cycles of the heavens, allowing them to time their agricultural and ceremonial activities. This wasn't about a single grand purpose, but a complex, adaptive response to their environment, combining sophisticated engineering with profound spiritual belief. It was a massive, collective act of devotion and desperation, a generational plea etched into the very fabric of their world. The lines were not asterisk for asterisk someone to see from above in the modern sense, but were part of a sacred geography, a living, breathing ritual space. They were a monumental form of communication, to their gods, to the land, and perhaps to future generations about the paramount importance of their life-giving water. The closest truth is that the Nazca lines are the desperate, beautiful, and utterly human response of a sophisticated society facing the ultimate environmental challenge, leaving a lasting testament to their enduring faith and ingenuity. The single most disturbing fact about the Nazca lines is not their origin, nor their purpose, but their fragility and their bleak future. These monumental works, which have endured for over 1,500 years, are now severely threatened by modern human activity. The very conditions that preserved them, the arid climate and lack of wind, are no match for uncontrolled tourism, illegal mining, and most devastatingly, climate change. The Pan-American Highway cuts through some of the smaller geoglyphs, and unauthorized vehicle traffic off the road can cause irreparable damage in moments. Worse still, extreme weather events, particularly heavy rains, which are becoming more frequent and intense due to global warming, are eroding the delicate surface layer, washing away lines that have survived millennia. In 2014, a Greenpeace protest involving activists walking directly onto a fragile area near the hummingbird geoglyph caused widespread outrage and irreversible damage, highlighting the precariousness of their existence. These are not robust stone structures, they are shallow incisions in the earth, easily erased by a careless footstep or a sudden downpour. Imagine an entire civilization's multi-generational plea for survival, etched into the ground, now being slowly, inadvertently, yet irrevocably, wiped from the historical record by the very descendants who marvel at them. It's a silent, ongoing destruction of an irreplaceable cultural heritage, a slow erasure of a desperate message from the past. The greatest mystery isn't how they were made, but whether they will survive us. Their eventual disappearance by our own hand would be the most profound and tragic cover-up of all, silencing a voice from antiquity forever. The Nazca lines stand as a chilling testament to humanity's enduring quest for meaning and survival in the face of overwhelming odds. They challenge our perceptions of ancient capabilities, forcing us to reconcile the seemingly impossible with the profoundly human. What does this tell us about human nature? It reveals our capacity for monumental collective effort, driven by deep spiritual conviction and a desperate need to control an uncontrollable world. It speaks to our innate desire to connect with something larger than ourselves, to leave a mark, and to communicate across generations, even if the audience is unknown or unseen. The Nazca people, faced with existential drought, poured their faith and their labor into these earthbound prayers, leaving behind an astonishing legacy that continues to baffle and inspire. Yet their story also serves as a stark warning. The most profound achievements of the past are often the most fragile in the present, constantly battling against neglect, misunderstanding, and the relentless march of time. The mystery of the Nazca lines isn't just about ancient people drawing on a desert. It's about our responsibility to preserve their silent, powerful message before it's too late, before the desert reclaims its secrets not through natural processes, but through human indifference. We are the keepers of their impossible legacy, and its fate now rests in our hands. If this kept you up at night, subscribe. We post dark history every week.